Hi there, Guy from Arturia here again. Thanks for joining me for part 2 in this video series focusing on Arturia Piano V. In this episode, we're going to take a look at the powerful range of features within Piano V and let you hear how each parameter affects the sound of the instrument. One of the most important aspects of Piano V that differentiates it from other piano software is that it dynamically creates the sound as you play. While other software tends to rely on huge sample libraries of recorded piano notes, Piano V responds to your touch, physically modelling every aspect of the virtual piano. Here's a clip of Piano V playing a fat C major chord, moving steadily from the softest possible notes to the hardest strikes. Notice how smooth the transitions are in the volume and tone. These smooth increments are possible because of physical modelling, giving you a unique sound for each of the 127 different MIDI velocities. Let's compare this to the sound of a popular sample-based piano software title. Did you hear the sudden jump in tone? This is because sample-based piano software uses recordings of acoustic pianos at several velocity levels, but because of the large file sizes involved, sample-based piano sounds are usually limited to less than a dozen layers. These are played back at the correct volumes, but don't give the organic, smooth variation of the original instrument. An important aspect that's easy to overlook is how your controller keyboard reacts with the software. Every make and model of keyboard has its own feel, key weight, sensitivity, so to make sure you're getting the best sound possible from Piano V, I'd recommend you spend a few seconds setting a velocity curve to suit your keyboard. If you're using a lightweight controller keyboard with synth-style keys, you'll probably find that you easily trigger the louder piano sounds and hit the maximum MIDI velocity levels without trying too hard. To counter this and get a more authentic sound, you can create your own velocity curve within Piano V to complement your controller. There are also a few handy presets to try. I find that the fast keyboard preset works really well for taming synth key controllers. You can also use this feature in a creative way. For example, you could use the soft touch preset to force your playing into a gentler, more intimate range. I find this really useful for creating delicate sections in songs, especially when you tend to be as heavy-handed as I am. Think of Piano V as your own personal piano museum. In it, you'll find 9 diverse, beautiful pianos all brought to life through physical modelling. Within the collection, you'll find a full-size concert grand based on the legendary Steinway Model D, the intimate grand, known affectionately in the industry as a baby grand, a beautiful jazz upright modelled on a vintage Yamaha piano. To show off the power of physical modelling, an intimate glass grand which replaces all of the wooden cabinetry of the piano with glass. And a huge resonant metal concert grand piano. There's also a piano bar upright modelled on the feel-good piano sound of Mongo Jerry's In the Summertime. A bright and present pop grand piano, and a pop upright modelled on the Yamaha U3. These have great punch and clarity. Finally, there's a classical upright for more intimate performances. I'll be covering how each of these unique piano models sound in the next video, but let's take a quick listen to a couple of the more exotic pianos to give you an idea of what's possible with physical modelling. Another subtle but powerful feature of Piano V is the ability to apply stretch tuning to various degrees. Slightly stretching the tuning from one octave to another gives the piano a richer sound and makes the harmonic overtones of each note interact rather than just stack one on top of the other. Let me show you what I mean. Here's a quick sweep through all of the A notes on this grand with straight tuning. And here it is again, stretched a little. Because this piano is entirely physically modelled, we can push the stretch even further. Although this is obviously quite an extreme example, it's a great way to show the modelling power of Piano V. Speaking of tuning, with Piano V it's possible to adjust the global tuning of the entire piano. This is great if you're accompanying traditional instruments like whistles or ocarinas that can't easily be tuned. This is also a really great way of experimenting with alternative tunings and moving away from the modern concert pitch of 440 Hz. So in my opinion, one of the most useful features of Piano V is the ability to mix the level of the instrument's mechanical noise, from pedals to hammers, and even the key off sound of the individual string dampers returning to their resting position. One quick way of showing you how dramatically this can affect the sound is to turn everything down. This gives the impression of distance. You can still hear the notes, but the noise of the performance is more subtle. When the mechanical noises are turned up, it feels like you're much closer to the instrument, and you can hear the structural thunking and clunking of the piano as it's played. Piano V also lets you use half-pedaling technique on the sustain pedal, reducing the boominess of the low notes and focusing the sustain on your melody. It's also possible to adjust the lid position, just as you would on any acoustic piano. You can take it from closed to half stick, all the way to fully open. You can also change the resonance of the virtual instrument soundboard, the large resonating plate within the piano, to exaggerate the tonality of the piano, or mute it. Take a listen and hear what a huge difference this makes to the sound. Piano V also lets you take control of the model piano's hammers, altering their hardness, dynamic range, and position on the strings. First off, let's look at how the hammer's dynamic range affects the sound of Piano V. For these examples, I'm going to turn up the hammer noise in the piano settings so we can more clearly hear the changes that are taking place. Left at 0, the hammer's tone stays relatively stable. As we turn up the dynamic range, you can hear that the harder strikes have a more prominent tone, and the softer notes have a gentler hammer sound. You can also change the overall sound of the piano hammers using the hardness setting. This is great if you want to give a delicate piano part a softer feel, or if you want a little more attack and energy in your piano to help it cut through a mix. It's also possible to alter the striking position of the hammers on the virtual strings. This can add some really weird resonances and odd tones to your sound. Now that we've covered all of the ways you're able to adjust the sound of the instrument itself, let's take a look at the variety of ways Piano V lets you alter the sound of the room. The physically modelled sound of Piano V is captured by virtual microphones within the software. There are some great time-tested microphone configurations and positions which all put their own distinct flavour on the sound of the instrument. You're also able to take control of the streamlined mixing desk within Piano V, changing the volumes of each microphone, altering their panning, and muting specific mics. This is great if, for example, you want to create a less direct, more roomy sound. Simply mute the close mics and choose whichever room microphone suits your sound best. Piano V contains 14 different virtual environments you can place your piano into, each with their own unique sonic character. There's a great mix of rooms and halls, as well as more quirky choices like the abandoned warehouse. These aren't simply presets. Each reverb can be adjusted to suit the task at hand. You can create a gated sound where the reverb cuts off more abruptly than it would naturally. This is great for getting a really stylized sound for a melody line, for example. You can obviously change the size of the virtual room you've selected, and also the decay time. This will change how reflective the environment is, and how the reflections of the sound convolute and interplay. With the right room, you can make some really dreamy atmospheric sounds when you turn these parameters up. Once you've found the tone and flavour of the reverb, you can control its overall level within Piano V using the dry-wet control. This allows you to find the right balance between the sound of the piano and the room that surrounds it. Finally, we're going to look at the powerful equalizer at the end of Piano V's signal chain. The 3-band parametric EQ lets you cut or boost the bass, mid-frequencies and treble of Piano V's sound. This is a great tool for helping the instrument sit nicely in the mix. For example, if Piano V is being used as part of a busy composition, you can remove some of the bass and push the high-end presence to give it a little lift, removing some of the boomy low end and helping it stand out. The mid-frequency control also contains a Q parameter. This lets you alter the focus of the frequencies affected by the boost or cut. Let's take a listen to how that sounds. Still with me? Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you found it useful and have more of an idea of what Piano V is and what's possible to achieve when you use it. In the next episode, we'll be hearing how Piano V's sound holds up in different musical contexts, from soundtrack work to rock recording, and looking at how you might use each of the unique piano models and play to their individual strengths. Thanks again for joining me. I hope to see you next time. Bye for now.